Welcome to Stoic Daily Stoicism. In today's video, we're diving into a fascinating truth that most men never realize until it's too late. What happens when you stop talking to a woman? You've been texting her every day. You're the one who always initiates, always keeps the conversations alive, always sends that good morning or how was your day message. And then, one day you decide to stop. You put your phone down, you stop chasing, and you focus entirely on your own life. What happens next will surprise you. And when you understand the psychology behind her reaction, it will completely transform the way you view relationships, attraction, and your own self-worth. Because here's the thing. Most men assume that if they stop talking, she'll just move on and forget about them. But that belief is not only wrong, it's the exact opposite of what usually happens. Today, I'll break down the psychology, the female perspective, and the Stoic principles that explain why silence often speaks louder than constant attention. By the end, you'll understand why sometimes withdrawing is more powerful than pursuing. Section 1. The trap of overinvesting. Let's start with the reality most men face. You meet a woman you're interested in. You feel excited, maybe even a little anxious. And because you want her to know you care, you text her consistently. You respond immediately. You initiate conversations. You make yourself available. And for a while, this feels like the right thing to do. After all, shouldn't effort prove your interest? But here's the paradox. The more you chase, the less she values it. Why? Because human psychology does not reward what is endlessly available. It rewards what is scarce, what is balanced, and what requires some degree of effort to earn. Think about it like this. Imagine if someone handed you your favorite meal every single day for free. At first, you'd be thrilled. But after a week, after a month, after 6 months, you'd start taking it for granted. The specialness would fade, and eventually, you might not even want it anymore. That's exactly what happens with your attention. When you give it away without pause, without balance, it stops being valuable. Section 2. The power of silence. Now, here's where things get interesting. The moment you stop talking, the dynamic flips. You might think she just shrugged and moved on. But in reality, something deeper begins to unfold in her mind. Psychologists call this the curiosity gap. Humans are wired to notice when a pattern breaks. If you were always the one sending messages and suddenly that stops, her brain goes into detective mode. She starts wondering, why did he stop texting me? Did something happen? Is he upset with me? Or is he talking to someone else? This gap between what she expects and what actually happens creates mental tension. It's kind of unfinished puzzle her brain wants to solve. And here's the twist. While you were constantly messaging her, she never needed to think about you. But when you step back, she starts thinking about you more. Your absence, ironically, makes you more present in her mind. Section 3. The scarcity principle. This ties into a well-documented psychological effect. The scarcity principle. We value things more when they're less available. If diamonds were lying on the street, nobody would care about them. Their rarity is what gives them value. Your attention works the same way. When it's freely given at all times, it's invisible. But when it becomes rare, suddenly becomes precious. This is why women and people in general often respond so strongly when attention is withdrawn. It's not about cruelty or manipulation. It's about how the human brain assigns value. Section 4. Social media and the digital detective in today's world. Silence doesn't just mean unanswered texts. It spills into the digital space. When you stop talking to her, she'll often start checking your social media more frequently. She might notice your Instagram stories, look at your posts, even scroll back through old pictures. Why? Because she's searching for clues. She wants to know if you're okay, if you're happy, if you're talking to someone new. This isn't random, it's a psychological strategy. By observing without asking, she protects her ego. She can investigate without risking rejection or revealing that she cares. But make no mistake, if she's watching, she's thinking. And the more she thinks, the more mental energy you occupy. Section 5. Loss aversion. Now, let's go deeper. One of the most powerful forces in human psychology is loss aversion. We fear losing something we already have far more than we enjoy gaining something new. When your attention disappears, her mind interprets it as a loss. And suddenly, the very thing she once overlooked becomes valuable. Think about it. How many times have you only realized the importance of something or someone after it was gone? That's loss aversion in action. Your silence triggers the same process in her. Even if she didn't fully appreciate your presence before, she now feels the absence. And that absence creates urgency. Section 6, her first moves. So what happens next? Most women won't immediately send a long emotional message. That would be too direct, too vulnerable. Instead, they'll test the waters with something light. Maybe it's a funny meme. Maybe it's a random question about something you mentioned weeks ago. Maybe it's a "Hey, how've you been?" These small touches aren't accidental, they're probes. She's checking if the door is still open. She wants to see if you'll respond, but without putting herself at risk of rejection. And this is where most men fail. They see that small message and instantly flood back with enthusiasm. But when you do that, you undo the entire process. You remind her that she doesn't need to invest, because you'll always carry the weight of the connection. The Stoic approach is different. The Stoic man responds calmly, with balance, without desperation. He treats her message as an invitation, not as a lifeline. Section 7. The romanticized memory. Here's another fascinating shift. When you stop initiating contact, she begins to romanticize the past. Our brains don't remember events equally. We remember peaks, the highs, the laughter, the intimate moments, and we remember endings. When no new mundane interactions are added, her brain naturally filters out the boring parts. Instead, she replays the highlights, making your connection appear better than it may have actually been. This is why silence can sometimes reignite attraction even after months. She's no longer annoyed by the little things. Instead, she recalls the moments when she felt good around you, and in that memory, you become larger than life. Section 8. Reactance theory. This leads to another powerful principle, reactance theory. When people feel that their freedom to access something is threatened, they want it more. If you were always available, she never worried about losing you. But once you step back, the possibility that you might not always be there becomes real. And that threat of loss makes her desire stronger. It's not about games, it's about how humans are wired. We chase what feels scarce, okay, and we protect what feels at risk. Section 9. Her increased investment at this stage. Okay? Her messages often become longer, more personal, more engaged. She asks questions. She shows interest. She makes suggestions, and in some cases she might even bring up meeting in person. Why? Because when she feels the connection slipping, she becomes the one investing. And here's the hidden truth. Attraction grows when both people contribute. When she invests, she values the connection more. This is why Stoic withdrawal creates balance. It shifts the dynamic from one-sided effort to mutual participation. Section 10. The Stoic perspective now. Let's bring in the philosophy. The Stoic man does not withdraw as a manipulation tactic. He does it because he values his own peace, his own life, his own purpose above external validation. He is not silent to create fear. He is silent because he is focused on his growth, his discipline, his higher calling. And paradoxically, this is what makes him more attractive. Women and people in general are drawn to those who are centered, grounded, and not dependent on external approval. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. When you stop chasing, you stop estimating her attention as the source of your value. And in that moment, you become free." Section 11. Real life scenarios. Let me give you some practical examples. Scenario 1. A man texts a woman daily for weeks. She responds, but always short replies. One day, he stops. 2 weeks later, she sends him a long message. "Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. How's everything going? Why now?" Because silence created space for her to notice the absence. Scenario 2. Another man posts photos of his travels, his gym progress, his work. He doesn't message her, but she sees his updates. She starts liking his posts, commenting, and eventually deeming why. Because his life continues with or without her. And that's magnetic. Scenario 3. A man gets ghosted. Instead of chasing, he focuses on himself. Months later, this same woman circles back with curiosity. Not because of games, but because his withdrawal proved he wasn't dependent. Section 12. The key licenso. What's the real takeaway here? When you stop talking, you don't just remove words, you remove assumption. You disrupt a pattern. You shift the dynamic. And in that silence, psychology takes over. She begins to think, to wonder, to value, to invest. But remember this, it only works if your silence is authentic. If you stop talking just to manipulate, she'll sense it. But if you stop talking because you're genuinely focused on your life, your purpose, and your self-respect, that's when the shift is real. OUTRO, call to action if this deep dive into psychology and with. And